The following is the quickest, simplest, and most concise explanation of Stoic concepts and terms, so the next time you read a quote, a book, or hear a lecture, you have full understanding of what they mean and you can practically incorporate those teachings into your life as intended by the ancient Stoics, as they believed that philosophy was for life and a thing that you should practically incorporate into your way of being so that you can become the best version of yourself and live the good life. Welcome back to The Everyday Stoic. I am William Mulligan. I simplify, modernize, and make practical the ancient teachings of philosophy and Stoicism so that you can practically incorporate them into your life to become the best version of yourself. Today is a glossary of Stoic terms so that you understand when people talk about Stoicism and you have all that knowledge up here to make your own interpretations and your own teachings. ADIAPHORA. ADIAPHORA is indifferent things. So the Stoics had a way of breaking down the world, a structure, into good, bad, and indifferent. Virtue alone is good, vice alone is bad, and everything else is indifferent. I'll explain what these terms mean in more depth later, but ADIAPHORA means indifference. AMOR FATI. AMOR FATI is a Latin word that translates roughly to love of one's fate or love your fate. The idea is that the Stoics, when good or bad happens to them, they will say, AMOR FATI, I love this because this is what fate has given me. And the only way to make best of what it is to not complain about it, not pity yourself, not moan about it, and just love it, accept it for what it is, and focus on what you can control. Apatheia. Apatheia is peace of mind, freedom from the passions, anger, desire, fear. Marcus Aurelius said the closer someone is to apatheia, the stronger they are. ARETE. ARETE is a word that comes up a lot that means virtue, goodness, or human excellence. If we live a life of ARETE, amongst other things, then we can achieve what the Stoics call the good life. ATARAXIA. ATARAXIA means to be undisturbed by external things. Epictetus said it is the fruit of philosophy. So when we're not disturbed by externals, like all the things outside of our control, people's opinions, the weather, if your team loses, gossip in the world, ataraxia means you're not disturbed by all of these things. The cardinal virtues, this is a core teaching of Stoicism, but it also relates to Aristotelian teachings. But the cardinal virtues are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And the Stoics believed that virtue is the only good. So living a life following these four things is the only good. Courage, which is one of the cardinal virtues, also known as Andrea, and it is represented by the illustration of the lion, the courageous lion. Courage means to face your fears and endure unpleasant feelings such as pain, fatigue, hunger. Dichotomy of control. So Epictetus said that some things are within your power and some things are not. Within your power are your motivation, aversion, desire, and in a word, whatever is of your own doing. Not within your power, health, wealth, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of your own doing. So they break it down into control, out of control, and you should not focus your energy and control to these things outside of your control. Eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is described as many as the ultimate goal of Stoicism. So eudaimonia can mean happiness, good well-being, or I prefer the translation of human flourishing. It is when you're flourishing. And it is achieved by following the eudaimonia triangle, where you take responsibility, live a life of arete or virtue, and you focus on what you can control. So if you do all these things, that is eudaimonia, and that is seen as the ultimate goal of Stoicism. ENCHIRIDION. ENCHIRIDION, oftentimes when people say this word, they are referring to the ENCHIRIDION of Epictetus, which is a famous text and one of the most recommended Stoic books. ENCHIRIDION can also mean handbook. So the handbook of Epictetus or the ENCHIRIDION of Epictetus, same thing. So that is the ENCHIRIDION, and if that ever comes up, people are often referring to the book. Eupatheia. Eupatheia is good passions and good emotions. It's the result of correct judgments and virtuous actions, things like benevolence, goodwill, friendliness, kindness, fairness. Eupatheia. Good, bad, indifferent. This is something you hear all the time when you read quotes about being a good man or not being bad, or focusing on preferred indifference, dispreferred indifference. So the Stoics had this structure of there was good, bad, indifference. Indifference can be broken down into preferred and dispreferred. So good, virtue alone is good. So all the virtues, courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice, good. Bad, vice alone is bad. So cowardice, intemperance, injustice, foolishness, this is bad. Taking actions based off of these vices, that's bad. Indifference is everything else. Health, wealth, pain, creativity, friendship, all these things are indifference. Justice. Justice is one of the cardinal virtues and is seen by many as the most important virtue, because without justice, all the other things are for selfish reasons. Justice, also known as DICHOTOMY, is represented with the symbol of the eagle, and it means to seek to help others. It means to even help your enemies in a goal to help them attain wisdom and become a better person themselves. Justice can be fairness, piety, generosity, kindness. So it can be broken down into those things. Pathos. So we spoke about good passions earlier. Pathos is the bad passions, things like desire, greed, fear, anger. Zeno of CTM, the founder of Stoicism, described it as irrational movements of the soul. Epictetus said that freedom is secure not in the desire of more, but in the removal of your desires. Meditations. If you ever hear this word come up, they are 99.9% time referring to this book by Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome, the last great emperor, and also known as the philosopher king. And he jotted down all his personal thoughts into his diary. They were there to help him become a better person and cope with his anger and cope with the immense weight on his shoulder of running this great empire, fighting off the Germanic tribes. When he was on the battlefield, he'll be writing into this book, and also dealing with his own sickness, the death of 7 of his own children, and the death of multiple of his own people during the Antonine Plague. So he wrote down all his thoughts in here. So meditations means thoughts, but the thoughts that have been written down in there. I have my own Meditations of William Mulligan, where I write my own thoughts down into here that are personal to me, and maybe one day when I die and my empire is given to my son, then someone will publish this and it will become a bestseller, the Meditations of William Mulligan. I doubt it. Memento mori. This is a term you probably hear the most in Stoicism. It's a Latin word that means remember death, or remember you are mortal, which seems very morbid. But the idea is the Stoics would keep something with them to remind them of their own mortality. I use this calendar and I just mark off my weeks until the day that I die, which could be that little square there or that little square. Who knows when it will be, because we ultimately don't know. But the idea is that if you remember death, then you remember to live. You remember to be present and grateful for the time you have. But you also don't get these delusions of grandeur and think you're better than everyone, because death humbles us. We're all equal in the face of death. All men must die. Memento mori, which brings me on to my next word. Memento vivere, which is a word you hear less in Stoicism and is often only used when contrasting to memento mori. People prefer it. Is Latin for remember life, remember to live. And it's basically the same thing as people get it tattooed or write it somewhere. And it's just this idea that we get so caught up in social media, get so caught up in drama, get caught up in the past and the future, that we forget to live. And as Memento Mori says, all that black filled in there is the past, all that white there is the future. The past doesn't exist, you can't change it. The future doesn't exist, you can't change it, it may never happen. So all you can do is focus on the present. Memento vivere, memento mori. Just focus on the present and be grateful for the time that we do have. Nature, this is the most confusing term, I think. And it's something that comes up a lot. People say the ultimate goal of Stoicism is to live in accordance with nature. And lots of people think that means to go out into the outdoors, avoid society, these kind of things, avoid these constructs made by man and get into nature. It doesn't mean that. So nature, there's two descriptions of nature. There's the first description, the first view of nature, which is the nature of the whole. It is, as the Stoics believed, the will of Zeus. So Zeus has created your plan and has put forward the plan of the universe. In modern times, this can be compared to fate, divine purpose, God's plan. People believe things are set out for them. Or if you don't believe in spirituality or religion, a way I like to describe it is the universe will happen as it does. All the planets spin as they do. If the sun gives off a solar flare that destroys our Earth, you was never going to be able to change any of that. That's fate, and it will happen if it does happen. So that's fate. and that is the first description of nature. That's the nature of the whole. Then there's the individual nature of everything. So the example given by Stoics is the nature of a flame is to rise. The nature of some animals is to protect their young. Premeditatio malorum is the premeditation on the evils and difficulties that lay ahead. Some people compare it to negative visualization. There's a slight difference there, but premeditatio malorum is, as Epictetus described, if you go out to the baths, the public baths, remember and say to yourself, I will meet with rude people that will splash, people that will push me. These are the things that happen and I'm ready for them. Your idea is you go on a daily commute, say I will be stuck in traffic, people will be rude, my boss will be rude, colleagues will gossip about me, because these things happen every day. And when you premeditate on this idea, you get ready for this to happen. It builds up your resilience. These things no longer take you by surprise and they no longer disturb you. It is a very powerful tool to help you be calmer and more confident in your day-to-day life. Sophos is a wise person or sage or someone that has attained wisdom. So that is Sophos. Sympatheia is the affinity of parts to the organic whole. It is this idea that all of our nature, all of our lives are interwoven in this cloth. We're just all interwoven in this nature. The way I like to describe it is that we're all part of this universal community. So doing good for someone else is also doing good for yourself. Doing good for yourself should be doing good for someone else. So all of our natures are interwoven. Stoa poikile, you may hear this word come up when reference to the origins of Stoicism. So Stoa poikile is where Zeno of Citium first began teaching into the streets, teaching his philosophy to the people. So Stoa poikile translates to painted porch. So he taught under the painted porch in the public. And that is where Stoicism got its name. Stoa poikile, Stoicism. Telos. Telos is actually a word you'll hear a lot in philosophy, and it just means the end. It's the ultimate goal that you're working towards. And the telos of Stoicism is to live in accordance with nature, is to achieve eudaimonia. That is the telos of Stoicism. Temperance, or otherwise known as moderation or sophrosune, and it is represented with the image of the ox. Temperance is sacrifice in service of wisdom and justice. Limit desire to what reason determines appropriate, remove excess and overindulgence, good discipline, seemliness, modesty, self-control. This is temperance, and temperance is one of the 4 cardinal virtues, which, as we spoke about earlier, are the only good. Wisdom, also known as Sophia, it is the image of the man. It is knowing what is good, bad, indifferent. Wisdom can be broken down into good sense, good calculation, quick-wittedness, discretion, and resourcefulness. Wisdom, again, is one of the 4 cardinal virtues. So actions taken in wisdom is a good action. Vice. Vice alone is bad. Vice is cowardice, foolishness, intemperance, injustice. Actions taken in vice are bad actions. Anything you do that is in vice is a bad action. Even things that seem good, if you're doing it out of vice, then that is bad. So that is vice. Vice alone is bad. The last word is ZENONIANISM, which doesn't come up as much as the other words, but I thought it was quite interesting to share with you. ZENONIANISM is the original name of Stoicism. When Zeno of Citium first started teaching at the Stoa poikile, he developed the following, and they started calling it ZENONIANISM after Zeno and his philosophy. But the name was dropped to remove a cult-like following and to remove any bias wrapped up in the man. It just became about the practical philosophy. And then, because he taught under the Stoa poikile, people started calling it Stoicism. So that is ZENONIANISM, and give thanks to Zeno for this great philosophy that we have. So, that is all the words I believe that you need to fully understand any quotes you read or any literature or any videos. I think all the other words are not that helpful unless you're doing in-depth research or talking to some scholar. I like to learn the other words just because it's like a hobby of mine. I enjoy learning more and more, but I don't find much use in them, and I think that you don't need them to understand the practical side of philosophy, practical side of Stoicism, which is the most important thing. Obviously the Stoics taught about learning all these things, but they believed most of philosophy is to incorporate into your life. Don't just talk about what a good man is, be one, as Epictetus said. Thank you for watching, and also very excited to share the meditations of, this is mine, Meditations of William Mulligan, but if you get one, that'll be empty and left to put your name on it. The idea is, the meditations of, is when you get ideas, you get any thoughts you think can be useful for yourself, you can just write them down in your meditations. You can keep them personal to you, or you can share them. But like Marcus Aurelius had when he was on the battlefield, he struggled with death, struggled with anger, struggled with his pursuit of being a good man. Rather than just being a great leader, it was a goal of his to be a good man. So he would write things like, from his mother he learned kindness and generosity. He would write things he learned from other philosophers, things he learned through life about these topics, and he would read over them and they will help him. And something that was very specific and personal to him has now become so universal. It's one of the best self-help books ever. It's my favorite. It's bestseller. But the idea is you just write down what's personal to you. So mine are very different to what Marcus Aurelius write in the modern age. I'm writing a lot about distractions, social media, about being a good man, these kind of things. But the idea is you have your own unique perspective. You've lived your own life, very unique to you. No one has lived your life, and that's what's so incredible about you. You are you, and you have unique thoughts that have helped you through life. Maybe saved your life, maybe helped you see a different perspective, maybe helped you not see things from a bad point of view. If you was going down the wrong path, you had this thought, steer you on the right track. And you can write this down, very unique to you, but maybe if one day you shared, when you finished a book, you shared these teachings with someone that you thought was so unique and specific to you and to your life, a lot of people will resonate with that. If it's helped save you, helped steer you onto the right track, it will resonate with people. So it's the idea of just making your own meditations, and one day, hopefully, you could share that with people, or just keep it personal to you to help guide you in your life. You can get 10% off with code BOOK, and the link will be in the description as always. Thank you for YouTube members, subscribers, everyone on Instagram, commenting, sharing ideas, joining in the community. It's really good. Thank you for all the messages, and just everything. It's really appreciated. Everyone buying the MEMENTO MORI poster, and the feedback I've been getting on that about saying how it's helped you be more present and grateful for the time you have. I know a lot of people think it's morbid, but it's not morbid. It's a beautiful perspective to understand that one day you'll die, and to be grateful for the very time that you do have. So thank you. And all of this just helps me make more videos like this and bigger projects. I'm working on MEMENTO MORI and a project on death. And I'm talking with lots of experts, lots of people from around the world getting their perspective. So I'm very excited to share that. It'll be a very great project, but it takes a lot of time, money, energy, same thing. And if you made it this far, something I always do in every video, I just get a comment, someone's comment, just to show you made it this far. It's just an interesting thing I like to do. I remember when I first did this, it was like 0.1% of people would make it this far, but now it's like growing, which it makes me realize that people are watching the whole video. But just comment, meditations, just so I know that you made it this far, and it's a bit of fun. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.